Welcome to another edition of James Martell's Coffee Talk, where James, successful publisher, speaker, and author of Online Success for Non-Techies, talks frankly and openly with experts from within the internet marketing industry about strategies and techniques you can use to develop a successful online presence for your personal or corporate brand. Here is your host, James Martell.
Yes, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk. Today I am speaking with Don Campbell about Get5stars.com, a leading-edge service designed for communicating with your customers and building reviews for your business. We'll be talking about online reviews for your business, what they are, where they appear, how they can help you gain higher search rankings, and how you can use customer reviews as a powerful weapon in the battle to win over new customers. I'll also be going through with Don and talking with Don about what to do when you get a bad review. It always happens. Everybody gets them. The dangers of gaming the system and how to build reviews naturally over time. Now, longtime listeners would know Don as the president of Expand to Web, which provides tools and training to help businesses succeed online. He's helped thousands of business owners learn how to build an effective web presence and get more customers from the web. Prior to founding Expand to Web in January of 2008, Don was a leading technology evangelist for Microsoft, where he helped partners adopt new Microsoft technologies and presented to C-level executives at Fortune 500 companies. Don is also an instructor here at the School of Internet Marketing, where he lives in the heart of Silicon Valley in San Jose, California, with his lovely wife and 2 daughters. Don, thank you so much for joining me for Coffee Talk.
You bet, James. Thanks for having me.
Well, online reviews. I know you and I have chatted about this numerous times over the last few months. It's definitely one of the hottest topics in local SEO. One of the things that you mentioned to me prior to the call was a statement that you say you hear quite regularly from business owners, and they'll say something like, "Online reviews, I don't do that." Hilarious. Let's jump into this if we can by having you explain how reviews of an online business they're happening anyways, aren't they? Regardless if the small business owner is watching or is engaged in it or not.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why that statement it indicates kind of the state of where many business owners are right now. They say, you talk to them about it, they say, I really don't want to do online reviews because I'm afraid of them. I'm afraid something they're out of the business owner's control, right? So there's a lot of fear built up around online reviews, and a lot of times the reaction is, well, they're kind of ignoring them or pretending they don't exist, so they'll go away, and which doesn't really work because people can leave reviews about you whether you like it or not online for a small business, and so it's really important to be proactive around that. And like we'll talk about today, there's some simple things that a business owner can do to sort of turn these things into a positive instead of a negative.
I was chatting with a chiropractor earlier this afternoon who was dealing with exactly that. We were going through some of his reviews, and he says, "Don't pull that one up. I don't even want to see it." I says, "No, come on, we got to go look at it." He says, "No, I don't want." No, says, "I'm going to. You turn away. I'm going to open it up. We're going to go through them." And you know what? The very first review, glowing review. Next review, not so good. Next one, not so good. And then there was a bunch of really good ones, and then there was one more that really wasn't so good. And you're going to share with us some ways that we can actually turn those negatives into a positive, and hopefully, I think, settle people down that this is not the big scary monster in the corner of the room, is it? This can really be advantageous to dig into.
Oh, for sure. And if a business will be proactive about reviews and asking for reviews from their best customers and look at negative reviews as an opportunity to show their commitment to engaging with their customers and providing good customer service, this can be, and I've seen this happen over and over again, it can be a very, very positive thing for the business and increase your business and conversions and everything else.
Where should a business start? Where should they start at the beginning? Like, what should they be thinking? I guess the first thing is they really want to be making sure they're building a business that I guess people want to review.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think overall, every business owes it to themselves to do some of the things we've talked about before. You talk about this a lot. We've talked about this on other podcasts too. That to their website should be the hub of their online presence, and they should be aware of what's going on online for themselves, right? And so they got to know what's out there and be proactive about having a good web presence. And then the other is just building a business that your customers like, right? And I think a lot of people I see get a little bit caught up in trying to. It's just like link building or SEO on your website. Some people they start focusing on the techniques instead of like the things you talk about all the time, James, about how do you do well in Google? Well, you produce great content, that people want and like, and then the links come naturally. And I think it's similar. It's similar here with online reviews. You build a business, then you take care of your customers and you get proactive with them, and then the online reviews flow naturally from that.
It's such a timely discussion. I also mentioned to you prior to getting on the podcast here that I received a email from one of our clients in Sacramento. He's an attorney, really nice guy, has a great business, and his assistant just sent an email to our help desk saying, we just got a 1-star review on yellowpages.ca or yellowpages.com. What do we do? What do we do? How do we deal with this? So before we get into talking about, how to deal with those types of things, why don't we start right at the very beginning? And maybe for the brand new listeners or those small business owners who are just kind of getting their head around reviews, why don't you, if you would, just explain what are reviews?
Yeah, well, in this context, when we're talking about small businesses, we're talking about chiropractors or attorneys or dentists or plumbers or whatever, real estate agents. I mean, there's any type of a business where you've got. I mean, those are the type of businesses we're talking about, right? And these online reviews can be left online for you on a lot of different services. So when you go into business, there's some data that's captured, and it goes out online, and all these services like Yelp and like Google and Yahoo and City Search and Insider Pages, they try to aggregate this business information, and they give people can go and search for your business online, whether you've listed yourself there or not. Many times they can find you, and then they can leave you a review. And so if someone ate at your restaurant or they visited your place of business, they can go and leave a review about you. And a lot of times the problem is, in certain industries, like if you're a coffee shop or a restaurant, you might tend to get more reviews than other industries, like a dentist or something. So it depends on your, the category you're in. But people can leave these reviews on many, many different websites on the web for you. And so that's why when we talk about, just trying to make sure you understand for your industry, where these reviews appearing.
So if you could name the type of sites, you mentioned Yellow Pages, and I guess all the different brands of Yellow Pages, Super Pages.
Right.
Probably right down the gamut. Where else would somebody be able to leave a review?
Yeah, so there are a set of sites in the U.S. and it depends on the country too, right? Canada has some different sites and sort of other countries, but just sort of focus on the U.S. for a moment. You've got the major review sites, which I consider like your Google Plus local page, your Yahoo local page, a City Search page. There's sites like that. Yelp is another one, and then you also have industry specific things. So if you're a restaurant or a hotel, that could be TripAdvisor, right? For a service industry, Angie's List. There are so for any given type of a business, there's what I call the base, sort of like the core review sites, like we talked about, Google and Yahoo and Yelp and sites like that, and then Foursquare now, and then there's also industry specific sites where people can leave reviews about you.
Let's transition into the topic of how do reviews influence buying decisions?
Yeah, well, so that's one of the things that is interesting is when you do searches in Google for a certain type of a business, a lot of those results, if business thinks your search query has local intent, then it will show local information And it might even show, in some cases, it'll show the reviews in the search results. And if people click through to your Google profile, they will see these reviews. Same thing on Yelp. A lot of Yelp profiles show up highly in the search results. And so what happens is people are doing a search and they see 10 results, but one of them has some online reviews and some stars next to it. And they're naturally attracted to that. They're like, well, I wonder what other people thought about this. If I need to put a new roof on my house, or I need my roof washed, or whatever the services that I'm looking for, I'm just influenced by other people. There are a lot of statistics that show that people are influenced by other people's reviews, even if they don't know those people. I mean, the analogy from a sort of slightly different world is, at least for me, this is just a personal experience. I don't know if this relates to you, but when I go into Barnes & Noble to buy a book now, I can't buy a book unless I've looked it up on Amazon to see what the rating is for it. Even, anywhere. I'm in the physical world and I'm like, this book looks good. I'm looking at the cover. It's the type of book I want to read, but I have to pull out my iPhone and look it up on Amazon first to decide whether I'm going to buy it.
It's so true. It's so true. The recent Star Trek movie that just came out, I was actually even worse than that. I'm like, please, reviews, be good. Be good.
See, that's where I would be with that movie, right?
I'm wishing they're going to be good. Turns out they were exceptionally good, and it's a fabulous movie. But you're right. We rely on reviews so much. I do them all the time, and I know I've read some statistics where 61% of online shoppers read reviews before making that essential decision to buy or not. And of course, the primary place they get those reviews is online, whether it be, as you explained, through your smartphone or your smart device, or through a PC or a laptop. So this gets back to almost to the beginning, whether or not we are engaged in our own reviews. And you said it. They're leaving reviews for us anyway, so this really is something that we should be definitely digging in. Now, there's also some SEO benefits. I know, like search engines like Google and Bing, they love fresh content, and by encouraging customer reviews, and I'd love to talk about your get5stars.com service, brilliant. But by encouraging customer reviews, you're generating new copy or new information online without any great effort, and your search rankings will thank you for it. If you would, explain how customer reviews can also lead to higher search rankings.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. So we talked about how customer reviews can increase the likelihood that someone is going to buy from you, right? Because that statistically it's been shown that people rely on recommendations not only from their friends, but even from people they don't know. Like when I'm looking up that book on Amazon, before I buy it at Barnes & Noble, I don't know those people who left those reviews, but after I see a number of reviews and I read what they said, then I can get a pretty good sense. So the whole conversion is influenced by these reviews, but so is your search rankings. So one of the things that we know is that having online reviews about your business online can help with your search rankings in general for your business. And this came out in the local search ranking factors report that I contribute to. I'm one of the people that contributes to that report that's put out by David Mim every year. And reviews are figuring more and more prominently in these ranking factors. And the reason is that we suspect, we're pretty sure that Google's ranking algorithm takes reviews into account, not just the quantity of reviews, but diversity of reviews from different sites. And in terms of local search rankings, one of the things we know is that Google is looking around the web for we call citations. These are mentions of your business online. And so looking for your business name, business address, business phone number, business website. And the more of these citations you have that match up exactly, the better signal strength your business has, and Google gives your business more credibility. And so that means you're more likely to show up for a particular search ranking for that type of good or service. And these online reviews count. Not only the fact that you have a review from this other website like CitySearch or Google or Yahoo or wherever, but also the text inside of those reviews is indexed, and that can show up in a result too. So many times you do a search for something, maybe a little bit more sophisticated search with some more words in it. If you're looking for something specific, a lot of times those results will be a review on Yelp
Hmm.
or in Google somewhere.
How about asking for customer reviews? This can be a little bit uncomfortable for some business owners. And you mentioned something about designing this into your process, which we can talk about in a little bit. But let's talk about this. How does someone go about asking a customer for a review? Do you have any recommendations there?
Yeah, that's a good one. And the problem here is that most businesses don't do this. And the thing that goes along with this is most people don't think to leave a review unless they're ticked off, right? So in a lot of cases, they don't think to leave, and especially in certain industries, right? If you're an optometrist, you probably aren't going to run out to Yelp and say, man, I just had the best eye appointment of my life. It was awesome, right?
Sure.
Unless something happened, and they really took care of you, you're probably not going to run out to Yelp. But if you didn't have a good appointment, then you might be mad and want to go out there. So the challenge for a business owner is if you are out there, and I will just relate this one story of an optometrist I was working with a few years ago. He came to us and said, hey, I know I've got to get online. I don't have a website or anything. Where should I start? And usually what we do is we start off by trying to understand what this business's footprint is on the web. And so if you did a search for this chiropractor in this city that he operated out, if you'd never find him, and even if you only typed his name in as a doctor, the only thing that came up for him was a negative review on his Yelp profile.
Ouch.
Yeah, and that had been out there for 8 years. I mean, 8 months, I'm sorry, not 8 years, for 8 months. And he didn't even know about it, right? So the problem is, here he is in the one footprint, and this is why you and I always talk about having your own website and having an online presence, and that's part of the picture. But in terms of reviews, you have to know that these are out there, and if you're proactively asking your customers for reviews over time, your best customers, and you're making it easy for them to leave you reviews, then those build up slowly, and now you've got 5 or 10 positive reviews, and then somebody gets mad and leaves you a negative one. It turns out that negative review gives more credibility to the other positive reviews. So it's so important that we get proactive about this as a business and ask for these reviews over time. And the way that you ask for them is you just, what I've seen work, just a very simple manual process is I've trained a lot of businesses to do this where they'll get a clipboard at the front desk with 2 columns, name and email address. And when a customer's in the office and they say, wow, that was a great visit, thanks for fitting me in, or whatever the comment is, the office manager would say, look, hey, would you mind leaving us an online review? It'll only take you 5 minutes, and they're so valuable to our business right now. If you would do that, I'd really appreciate it. And usually they say yes. And then you say, well, let me get your name and your email address, right? And so you're keeping track. And then at the end of the week, you got a list of, let's say, 20 people that are customers of yours that had a good experience. And I give them a nice little email template. They send this email out, and it has a direct link to their Google profile, or maybe to the Yahoo one, or whichever one you want to build reviews on. You want to kind of change it from time to time. And that email goes out saying, hey, thank you so much for coming in. And this is from the doctor or from the business owner, right? Mm-hmm. The email. It says, I'd really appreciate it if you'd click this link and leave us an online review. It'd help us a lot. And that's it. And that little process, just over time, builds up one review this week, no reviews next week, 2 reviews the following week. Over time, you build up a nice stable of solid online reviews from your best customers. And most of the time, they're happy to do it for you.
That actual negative listing that is sitting in the results, for example, from the chiropractor that just called in, there's really no way to have that removed, is there?
That's actually a great question, because there are some things you can do. And I'll take Yelp as an example. And that's why it's so important to monitor and understand what reviews are being left about you. Because when you get that review, and if you get alerted, like our system, the Get 5 Stars will do that, or you maybe can set up an alert in Google or something. But it's important, or just watch the sites. Make sure that a review's been left, and go out there. And if it happens to be a negative review, you have a couple things that you can do. First of all, Yelp will allow you as a business owner to communicate with the person who left that review. Now, they don't give you their email address, but through the Yelp system, you can send them a message and say, hey, I saw your review. I'm really sorry there was a fly in your soup. we were really short staffed that night. You get to explain the situation, say, how can we make it up to you, right? And this is private. And many times the person will come back, like that example of the optometrist I mentioned to you.
Mm-hmm.
When he saw that Yelp review, he said, oh, I know this guy. I know who that is. He's actually a customer of mine still. And I remember that incident. We accidentally broke his frames while we were putting a new prescription in. And he was really upset about it. But we took care of him and he's happy now. And I told him, well, why don't you call him and ask him to revise that review? And he did. He called the person up and the guy said, yeah, I'm totally fine. You took care of us. No problem. He said, well, would you mind updating your review on Yelp because it's really hurting us? And so he went out and revised his review. So if you have a way to communicate with the customer, maybe you know who it is, or through the Yelp system, you could send them a note and resolve it that way. That's great. If they won't respond and they aren't responding to you, then you have the opportunity to leave a comment on the review. So as the business owner, you can put in your side of the story. And this is your opportunity to not get them back and get mean or like insult them, right? Because remember, the world's a stage. Everyone can see this. You have to look at this as an opportunity to just show great customer service, because a lot of times these negative reviews could be from a competitor, or they could be from, and people know this, right? If somebody's if they're exceptionally nasty, then a lot of times people will discount that review, and unless it comes across as looking legitimate, and you actually have a chance to respond and I recommend that you respond in a very positive way to show that you're engaged with your customers, you're listening to them, and you're there to make it right. And it turns this negative review into a positive, experience in a lot of cases. And in fact, I've seen people get customers for life based on this and do a really good job of taking care of things.
I could see how that would work very well. What an opportunity to turn a bad review or to turn it around in your favor by, as you say, the world is a stage, and your potential customers are also seeing this, and now they get an opportunity to see how you actually deal with complaints.
Right.
And it's funny. It reminds me of another story. We do work for a local pub. We mention them all the time, Sawbucks, and they have a negative review that came in on one of the review directories, and it was kind of suspicious, and it was kind of odd, and it was really nasty. And I don't know if he didn't realize his name would publish along with it, or he thought it was going to be anonymous or what, or he was just being blatant and annoying. But it's a direct competitor just down the street. They have a very unique name, and there's only one family in town with that name. And it's just like, okay, come on. But I think in the normal situations where it is a real complaint, what a great opportunity to use it as a customer service opportunity. And even if you can't win the customer back as hard as you try, I think by the other customers and potential customers getting to see how you dealt with it, I think that would definitely bring you more business.
Yeah, and it works. It really does. I mean, when you see that happen, it works both. A lot of times the customer just wants to be listened to, right? And if you listen to them, then they're willing to work with you. 90% of the time, that's the case. And then on the other side of, then at least you responded, and your other prospects who see this can go, well, he's got 10 good reviews, he's got one bad one, and on the bad one, he's actually trying to make it right with the customer. So it's a great opportunity, and that's the problem. Is so many businesses they're afraid of it, and they don't look at it as an opportunity. They look at online reviews as like something that's out of their control and that's scary for them. And I understand why, but if you kind of take this proactive approach, then it doesn't have to be scary. It can be actually a way to just get more business.
Let's talk about building long-term relationships. You talk about this a lot, the importance of really taking care of your customers and getting to know them over time. This, I guess, goes right back to the beginning where we're talking about building a business that people want to review. Of course, if you're going to take care of your customers over time, there's opportunities for them to leave more than one review.
For sure. And it's one of those things where if you're doing a good job with, and John Janst has this book that I highly recommend. I read this book like 3 times, and I did a blog post about it, and it changed my business. It's called The Referral Engine. And he talks about how to basically, I think the subtitle for the book is how how to build your business without having to do marketing. I can't remember exactly, but the concept is if you do the right thing with your customers, they're going to tell their friends about you. I mean, it's wired into us to want to help other people out and refer to our friends. I mean, the last time you were in downtown, like of where you live, and somebody came up and said, "Hey, can you tell me where the post office is, or where the best pizza place is, or somewhere for lunch?" I mean, it feels good, right? You want to say, "Oh yeah, just go down over here. You're going to really like this place." We're wired to help people out, make these referrals, and so the whole premise of that book is, build a business that people want to refer by taking care of your customers, and then have a process or a system in place to ask for referrals. And so when I always like to think about that long-term customer relationship, because if you do get enough job of this, you don't have to do marketing anymore. You don't have to do sales, because you've got a business where all of your marketing dollars and sales dollars are poured into just making a better customer experience. Mm-hmm. And then people naturally leave you reviews and they recommend you to their friends. And that's the model that I try to build my business on. And I can tell you it works. And I know you do the same, James. And I think it's I've seen a lot of small business owners do this really well too.
Dangers of gaming the system. Of course, busy business owners are exactly that, busy, and it may be pretty tempting to just try to come up with simpler ways to get these reviews. Talk to the dangers of trying to take shortcuts, and also the Google and Yelp review filters. Give us the big picture on this so we don't fall into a big hole.
Yeah, so this is the flip side of that coin where we're talking about long-term customer relationships. And like you said, people, maybe sometimes you're tempted to take a shortcut because we're all so busy. And really, these shortcuts, it's just the same as other SEO kind of things. They might work for a little while, but then they can also get you into a lot of trouble. And so by shortcuts, I know that there are services out there where you can go buy online reviews, right? Mm-hmm. You can go and pay somebody, and I think they have teams of people in India that go and build up profiles and they leave you reviews. And in fact, it's funny, I've seen in analyzing some different businesses and reviews, I spend a lot of time on this stuff, and I've seen before, like, I'd look at a business that has a bunch of really, really positive reviews, and then I'd find you could see this reviewer and follow and click on it and say, where else has this person left reviews? And most systems allow you to do this, like Yelp or Google, because they're not allowing anonymous reviews as much anymore. Now what they're trying to do is, if you leave a review, it's through your account on Yelp or on Google. Otherwise, it just gets filtered right out, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you can see here, this person left a review on a deli in New York and a smog shop in Chicago, and and some other business in Miami on the same day. How is that even possible? And so Google and Yelp and all these services, they have really sophisticated algorithms that look at this and they say, I do not want fake reviews in here. And we know that people are buying reviews. And so they filter. They're just getting really aggressive. In fact, those review filters are so aggressive that many times they're filtering out legitimate reviews too. And I've seen this. I'm not just speculating. I've seen this happen a lot, which is unfortunate. But the idea is they're going to catch you, right? And if you go and try and buy reviews, what's the point of a good review anyway, right? It's that you have a happy customer that's willing to recommend you to their friends, and they feel so compelled to help you that they're online leaving you a review. You can't buy that, right? And even if you do buy a review and you get it to somehow show up it's not really going to help you in the long run. It might just be nice to say, hey, I've got 10 reviews or 20 reviews that you bought them. They're just going to get filtered. And Google and Yelp, these guys, they have teams of people. I mean, Google has as you know, James, they have an entire team at Google called the web spam team that is all over this stuff. And these are PhDs, and then they're sitting around every day looking at millions and millions of things going on in Google, and they're going to catch you, just like they catch link farms and all that stuff.
And there's a building full of these guys.
Yeah,
that's all they do. They eat, sleep, and drink it.
Right. And so, how many people do you know, James, that were cruising along, making some money on the web, and then when some of these new updates for Panda and Penguin, the Google algorithm updates came out, half of their business was destroyed, right?
Lots.
Yeah.
Too many.
That's what you get, right? When you take these shortcuts, is that you get hammered because Google's going to eventually find it and say, well, yeah, those are paid for links or those are paid reviews, and so those are going to go. And then the next day, your competitor rockets up to the front of the search results, and then you're buried on the second page. So it's just not worth it, in my opinion. I mean, you can try, the shortcuts, but they just don't really pan out.
No, and there's so much money to be had if you do it right, and so much pain if you have to try to attempt to start over, that it's not even worth going there. So with this in mind, let's talk about taking the long-term view, building reviews naturally over time, the way they are supposed to come into the review directories. If you could address that a little bit, and give us 3 things that business owners can focus on. We've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about a lot of different things, but I think there's some underlying messages here. Can you kind of break this down for us?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of taking the long-term view, something my friend Mike Blumenthal likes to say is, it's not about who has the most reviews. It's not like, hey, I have 100 reviews and my competitor has 10. Google actually looks at that, right? And they say, well, something happened. If you get a whole bunch of reviews all at once, or if you get a bunch of reviews all at once, or let's say you have way more reviews than anyone else in your industry, those are flags that Google's looking at. The algorithm is saying, or Yelp or whoever, they look at this stuff because they're on the alert for this sort of someone gaming the system. So what you really want is to build up a nice natural, just like a link profile in SEO, you want to build up a nice natural profile of online reviews over time, and build it naturally over time. A few this week, one next week. And so that's really, the way you want to do it is just kind of have these good relationships, consistently ask for reviews. I mean, I've found that only 5 to 10%, let's say that you had 10 people or 20 people in a week that said they would give you an online review, and you wrote their name down and you send them an email at the end of the week. Only 1 or 2 of those will actually do it. And it's not because they don't want to, but it's because they're busy. They got a lot of emails, and so it's not like you're going to get, it's sort of like you have to ask consistently over time, because only a few people are going to actually do it. And that's okay, because you want a nice review profile that's fresh. You're getting reviews regularly. And I got a review a week ago. It's not like from a year ago, the last review, right? So it's fresh, and they're built up over time. So kind of beating that to death. But I mean, I'm not trying to play conservative here. This is what the algorithms look for. Yes. And this is if you don't have that kind of review profile, they're going to know it, and they're going to assume that you're doing something to cheat. So anyway, that's kind of why I think it's important to have a system in place to build these reviews over time like that. And so to kind of net it out, there are 3 things that I would just say. We talked about a lot of things about reviews today, but there are 3 things I would say that every business owner should think about, right? And say, okay, these are my action steps for how I deal with this. Number 1 is to monitor your reviews. So the first step is, don't be like the guy that I mentioned earlier, or the person you mentioned, where they don't know about this negative review out there, or they're afraid to look at it, right? I mean, you need to know when. Yeah, right. Don't do that. Don't put your head in the sand. Monitor, figure out, hey, if I'm in a restaurant, I better be looking on Yelp and Google and some of the other sites, and just figure out, do some Google searches, make sure you know what's being said about your business online, and engage with those. Even positive reviews, you can leave nice comments on, right? So you can leave a business comment if somebody gives you a nice review. Show people you're engaged. So monitor so that you understand what's being said. Number 2 is build a system to reach out to your best customers and ask them for reviews. So even if it's a manual system like I described earlier, have a way where you're asking every week for people to leave you reviews, and building that long-term profile. And so really that would be sort of like the second one. And then the third one is just stay proactive. I guess it's really those 2 things. I mean, it doesn't even have to be 3. It's mainly those 2. Just monitor, and then reach out to your customers over time, and repeat the process so that you've got a nice little system in place to help you out.
You and I were sitting in Las Vegas at a conference. We'd broke for lunch, and there was a few of us sitting around the table. And you pulled out your laptop and you showed us an idea for a new tool and a new service that you were thinking about creating. You'd kind of fleshed it out. It wasn't finished. It had a long way to go. And this was probably January of this year. So we're talking 6 months ago. I do know the service is fully finished. I've used it for one of our own clients, and we're about to roll it out. And it does make this challenge quite simple. Do us a favor and explain the Get 5-star system, how it works, and how people can get involved with it.
Yeah, sure. I'm very excited about it. We just really took it out of the beta invite mode a couple weeks ago, so it's it's ready to roll. And basically, what it does is it allows you to work with your customers over time. And so it's like a dashboard with your customers in it. It's just a single view where you can look at this dashboard of your customers, and you can send the review requests right from there. And we give you a nice email template to do that. And it keeps track of who you've sent review requests to and if they've left you a review or not. And we actually do it in a slightly different way. We break it into two phases. The first is the feedback phase. So we're not even asking for a review yet. First thing is, hey, getting feedback from your customers and sending them a nice, so let's say someone comes into the office, you get their name and email address. Instead of putting it on that piece of paper, you put it in the system. You can use your iPhone or your iPad or the computer and just add their name and their email address into the system. And then at the end of the week, you send out the feedback request emails to these people, right? To your customers. Mm-hmm. And they get a nice little email saying, hey, thank you for coming in this week. Really appreciate it if you leave us some feedback on your visit. Now, this isn't an online review in Google. This is just feedback for me to understand, right? How did we do? And basically, they are taken to a nice little screen. They click the link, and they can leave a title and the description, and then they get to rate you on a scale. They rate this one question on a scale from 0 to 10. And that question is, would you refer our company to your friends or colleagues? And so if they rate a 10, that means absolutely, and a 0 would mean no way, and then everything in between. So based on how they answer that, if it's positive, then we take them to a thank you screen, say thanks so much for your feedback, really appreciate it. If you would take 5 minutes and leave us a review on Yelp or Google, and we put the links there directly to your profile in Yelp or in Google, and then they have an opportunity to leave it there. If they left you not so good feedback, then we take them to a different page that then says, hey, whenever we receive feedback like this, we like to address it and we'll be contacting you. And then the business owner gets an email alert about that feedback. So the idea here is you're catching them before you're listening to your customer and catching them before they go off and leave you that bad review on Yelp. I mean, hopefully the customers are happy, but if you did have somebody that wasn't, you give them a place to vent, and you get a chance to address it before the negative review happens out online, out of your control, right?
Brilliant idea.
And then for the positive ones, you now have some feedback, which you can then put on your website because there's a permission checkbox for the customer. And you might even have some reviews out on Google and Yelp and the other online review services. So we also give the business owner a widget that they can put on their website. And right from the dashboard, they can choose which reviews they want it to show up on their website. And in real time, when they click that box, if someone's left you feedback, you can actually have it on your website. And it's all encoded in a way that Google will crawl and understand. It's in the schema.org format, and it's represented as a business review. So this is in addition to whatever's left on Google or Yahoo or wherever else. So now you've got a nice page on your website that shows off the reviews in addition to the online reviews you're getting elsewhere.
Sounds like a very easy way to build this as a process into an office. So give us an example of how maybe a chiropractor would, or a dentist or a doctor would use this.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're after, is trying to make it super easy to have that process in place to talk to your customers. So basically what you would do is, as the patient is in the office and maybe as they're leaving or checking out, the office manager just says, hey, would you mind leaving us some feedback if we follow up with you? And can we have your email address? So you're building, and this is something you talked about a long time ago, James, is how many of these small businesses don't even have the emails of their clients.
Oh, it's painful. Oh, it's a painful topic.
It is. And you may never see that person again, right? And
That's
so
right.
here's your chance to continue the conversation with them, ask them for an email, ask them for feedback, and keep them instead of having to go. It's 6 times more expensive to get a new customer than it is to keep one you already have. So
This is a classic way to do that.
right. And so now you've got a way to ask them, and then you follow up with the feedback email. And if it's a positive experience, you ask them for an online review. If it's a negative experience, you get a chance to address it. And then we also have built into the tool a review monitoring capability. So it'll tell you if you get a new review on Yelp or on Google or something like that, it will actually tell you in this dashboard, and you can sign up. You can get if you check a box, you'll get an email alert as well. So at least you know if people are also reviewing you outside of the system and they're leaving you reviews, you're alerted to it.
Terrific. Don, any final words? And please also share your contact information where people can get 5star.com information. I know you've got a great little tutorial video there as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, James, for that opportunity. I appreciate it. I mean, all I would say is, definitely for a small business owner, look at this, get proactive around it. I promise you it will make a big difference. I've seen it happen over and over again. Just the things we talked about with monitoring your reviews and getting proactive, reaching out and getting feedback from your customers. If you want to try Get 5 Stars, we do have a 15-day free trial, and that's spelled out get5stars.com. And just go check it out and see if it would work for you. It doesn't cost you anything to try it. And also, if you had any questions about online reviews, because maybe there's stuff we didn't cover here, I love talking about this stuff. So you can just, my website is expand2web.com. I'm on Twitter is @DonCampbell, or you can email me at don@expand2web.com, and I'd love to hear from you.
Don, thank you so much for joining me for Coffee Talk.
My pleasure, James. Thanks for having me.
To learn more about James Martell, the School of Internet Marketing, and how you or someone on your staff can quickly and easily learn how to develop a successful online presence for your personal or corporate brand, visit theschoolofinternetmarketing.com. That's www.theschoolofinternetmarketing.com.